Hey there, in the first video of my abdominal fat and stress playlist, you learned why excessive amounts of stress can cause excessive amounts of fat stored in the midsection. And in the second video of that playlist, you learned how to assess yourself based off how you're feeling mentally about your stress. Now in this video, you're going to learn how to assess yourself based off how your body's doing physically to find out how much you need to focus on reducing stress, or if you need to focus more on increasing your VO2 max and building lean muscle mass. Then in future videos of this playlist, I'll be going through stress management tips, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on those videos. So the first thing we need to do here is get two measurements down. So the first one, you're going to measure around your waist, and you want to get the most narrow part of your waist. So bring it around here like this, and then find where it's the most narrow, so right about here for me. And then make sure you're relaxing your stomach, so like this, and that you aren't pulling it in like that. So right here, my waist would be 30.5 inches. So make sure after you do this, you remember that number. Now the next measurement you're going to do here is get the widest part of the hips. You're going to start with it back here. And then when you got it around the widest part of the hips, find how much inches it is. And right here we got about 37.25 inches. So one important thing here to keep in mind when doing these measurements is make sure that it's not crooked like this. Make sure that one part's not higher than the other. Make sure it's the same height. So you pick which height would be the narrowest for the waist and the widest for the hips, but make sure it's not a little lower on one side than the other. Make sure it's the same height all the way around so you can get accurate measurements here.
So this information here is coming straight out of my NASM textbook. So what you want to do here is take the measurement of your waist and divide it by the measurement of your hips. So with my example here, I take the 30.5 because that's the measurement of my waist, divide by the 37.25 because that's the measurement of my hips, which comes out to 0.82. So 0.82 would be my waist to hip ratio. So right out of my NASM textbook, it says a ratio greater than 0.8 for women and greater than 0.95 for men may put these individuals at risk for a number of diseases. So it's going to be very important here that we reduce this number because visceral fat generally stores around the midsection and adipose tissue generally stores anywhere else. So if you're a female and your hip to waist ratio is over 0.8, or if you're a male and your hip to waist ratio is over 0.95, focus on stress management. But if your hip to waist ratio is lower than that, but you still have a high body fat percentage and some fat you need to lose, focus on increasing your VO2 max and building lean muscle mass. So I would suggest you check out my long-term fat loss playlist series and my squat form and posture playlist series to fix some of those muscle imbalances to set you up to build muscle mass. So this chart right here shows where you should be at with your waist measurement, and this chart right here shows where you should be at with the waist to hip ratio. So the reason why this assessment here works is because we know that visceral fat stores around the midsection, and we know that visceral fat is stored due to excessive amounts of stress.
Alright, for those of you that have not done the mental stress assessment in my part 2 video of this playlist, go check out that video right there. And if you have done both of these assessments and only one of the assessments said you need to focus on reducing stress, then focus on reducing stress. If the mental one said you needed to focus on reducing stress, you're probably kind of going through a short-term phase of excessive amounts of stress. If on this assessment here, the physical one showed that you need to focus on reducing stress, it probably means that the majority of your life you have been under excessive amounts of stress. So think about long-term stress management things you can do. Now, I'd recommend that you reassess with both of these stress management assessments once a month to see the progress you've made on reducing stress and losing that visceral fat. So if you need help on reducing stress, you need to find some great stress management tips. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my upcoming videos that are going to help you reduce stress.